Hello out there, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about this really well done, fascinating film called First Reformed, written and directed by Paul Schrader, who of course wrote Taxi Driver, and most recently I believe wrote and directed The Card Counter with Oscar Isaac. This film of course stars Ethan Hawke, Amanda Seyfried, and Cedric the Entertainer, of all people, is in it as well, playing an interesting character. It's also supported by a number of really good character actors. The film itself is most notably an excellent exercise in writing, as well as I think Ethan Hawke, in my mind, was really overlooked as a deserving nomination for his support. I mean, basically he was the lead actor, so I suppose he should have been nominated for Best Actor, but I think his performance was probably the best he's ever given. It's a terrific portrayal of a pastor who apparently had experienced a lot of grief and suffering over the consequence of his son dying in Iraq and his support for the Iraq War, the pastor, the Ethan Hawke character's support of it, and apparently when everything came out and it was discovered that the Iraq War was based on lies, the upshot was his wife left him after their son died, and he apparently just fell down to the bottom of a barrel or a bottle and became an alcoholic, but managed to somehow get this job at this First Reformed church, which is part of a mega church conglomerate apparently, and they sort of affectionately, or perhaps even a little disparagingly, refer to this old church that he preaches at as the gift shop, because the pews are lightly attended, shall we say, on Sunday. It is not a church that is bringing in a lot of dollars, apart from just being a sort of interesting relic and historical artifact for the church and for Christianity. So, but the conceit behind it is that there's going to be a commemoration of the church. Some anniversary is about to happen, and the big mega church decides to have an event to celebrate that. But meanwhile, the Ethan Hawke character, again, he's just having a rough go. He's an alcoholic. His church is not well attended, and he's struggling. He comes into contact with one of his parishioners, played by Amanda Seyfried, who's apparently quite distraught over the fact that her boyfriend wants her to terminate her pregnancy, and you come to find out that the reason he feels this way is because he's an eco-warrior, eco-terrorist, depending on your point of view, who sees what's going on in the world and is understandably terrified and thinks that it's unethical at this point to bring children into the world. And he's a very articulate and informed individual who, once he does sit down with the Reverend Toller character played by Ethan Hawke, there's this amazing scene in that parlor of the house where they're both sitting there talking for about 15 minutes, and it is just some of the best cinema I've ever seen. It's a standout, and certainly Ethan Hawke's best acting that I've ever seen him do. The dialogue, the way they filmed it, I really think it's just a terrific scene that in and of itself would warrant a watch of the film. The movie itself, it has other facets as well that I think bring into sort of the picture kind of a balanced depiction of these characters. It's not necessarily one-sided. It's showing sort of the circumstances that we're in and the tragedy that's a consequence of that. So I don't think it necessarily has an agenda as much as it does. It wants to depict these very flawed and interesting characters meeting one another at this moment in their lives and having these fascinating discussions and revelations that are brought about as a consequence. It's just a really interesting character study. And again, Ethan Hawke has never been better. And I would like to point out a notable mention too for Cedric the Entertainer, who plays Ethan Hawke's boss. And he does a good job. I mean, I'm not a fan necessarily of Cedric, but I think he acquits himself nicely in the role, and he's playing it straight. It's not a part that's meant to be funny. He's just sort of a kind of a business guy, really, just trying to run a church. And so I think that's was an interesting casting decision that works well within the context of the film. And again, I think Cedric did a great job. So, but on that note, I would highly recommend this film. I think it's a great addition to my shelf, at least, and I have seen it several times and have just marveled at the aforementioned scene in that parlor. It's some of the best cinema I've ever watched. So take care, and until the next time.